Hey everyone, it is George Couros, and welcome back to another episode of the Innovators Mindset Podcast. If you are watching this on YouTube, thanks for being here. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever, thank you so much for spending part of your time. The reason I mentioned that if you're on YouTube, you might see I'm wearing my old school Montreal Expos hat. Easily my favorite hat of all time. Whenever I put this on, it reminds me of being a kid, and I just love it. But I'm wearing it because I love it, but also my hair is just something's going on. But here we are, and I wanted to do a little solo podcast with you. Like I said, I've been committed to doing a solo podcast every Thursday, sharing some ideas, sharing some of your questions, just some thinking. And today's podcast is based on an email, and I'm actually working on it right now. It'll be released pretty soon, but by the time you hear this podcast, it'll be linked down below, and it is actually titled 3 Things Great Leaders Do to Instill Irrational Confidence in Others. That ability to go above and beyond what you do. Now, it is very important that when you hear the term leader, you don't think administrator, because if you're here right now and you're a teacher, you're a support staff member, you know, doing different things in schools, and you're like, this is not for me, this is for administrators, there is a huge disconnect there. Because as I share in the email, some of the best leaders in schools today have never been administrators, nor do they ever want to be administrators. And some administrators I have met in my career, and I would like to say I've never had one, but I'd be lying if that's true, are not great leaders. They are great. They might be good administrators, not necessarily great leaders. And I don't know. Maybe that's not even possible. Can you be a great administrator if you are not a great leader? I don't know. I don't think so. But this is why I love to talk things out. And so in the book, What Makes a Great Principal, and this is actually based on the book's 1-year anniversary. That's why I wanted to share this email and this podcast. I share this in the book. The term leader is used in this book. It is not synonymous with administrator or principal. We define the term leader in the following manner. A leader is someone who has the ability to move people forward in a positive direction. So when you think of that, how do you actually inspire people to make positive changes in their lives? And sometimes it is having that irrational confidence to be able to do something that you might be a little bit out of your reach, but with some development of skills, some persistence, you can actually make those things happen. And I actually shared this in the email. One way to kind of look at this is when I do exercise, right? There are things that I do today consistently that are now my warm up. I don't even think twice about it. And you have to go out above and beyond yourself to really kind of push yourself, but you have to believe eventually I can get this. So like a really easy example, pull-ups. I could never do a pull-up. Well, I couldn't even when I was a kid, really, to be honest, yeah. But to do a pull-up, I'm still not good on the monkey bars. And I do this with my kids. It doesn't go well. But pull-ups have always been terrifying to me. And now every time before I start a workout, my goal is to do at least 100 pull-ups. So I do 500 push-ups in the morning, 100 pull-ups every day. That is a consistent practice where I used to not be able to do one. And you have to have an ability to try something you know is not going to work. And sometimes it takes someone else pushing you, that irrational confidence. And this is actually based on a quote that I've been sharing for a while. And it is simply this: be the reason someone has the irrational confidence to go on to do something great. And when I was thinking about where this quote came from, it truly came from being inspired by some of the people in my life who were incredible leaders and pushed me to things I didn't ever see happening in my life. And the book, What Makes a Great Principal, it was really came to fruition when I thought about my principal, Kelly Wilkins, who I've mentioned a million times on the podcast, basically not only changed my career, but probably changed the trajectory of my life because of her belief in me, which I thought didn't make sense at the time. But now a lot of the things that she said would happen actually have happened in my life. And she really gave me this confidence to go on and do different things. And weirdly enough, if you want, this is actually on a t-shirt now. So you can get the t-shirt, is down in the link down below. And I did a very minimalistic style. And weirdly enough, the reason I mentioned this, yeah, of course, I'd love you to get the shirt, but it was actually inspired by a reader from the community. Her name is Lydia, and it's Dunas. Lydia, if you're listening, first of all, Lydia, not only did I give you a shout, like if I'm giving you a shout out, getting a shout out, I haven't pressed that button in a while. She actually reached out to me and said to me, I love this quote so much. You need to make it a shirt. And I was like, I should make it a shirt. So Lydia, thanks so much for the inspiration. So I did put a shirt together. And it was like interesting because I never thought that. And I kind of was like, who wants, really? And then, I'm like, hey, put it out there. So Lydia, thanks for that support. So I was kind of like inspired by Lydia's email to say like, hey, try, you should put this out there. So I did. So you see the shop on Teespring down below. You can even get a coffee mug if that's something that you're into. But I'm not here to sell shirts. If you want to pick up on, fantastic. I always want to try to provide value. When you support me, when you get books and stuff like that, it does matter to me. But I also know people are not in situation. Maybe they don't want a shirt. I don't know. But I always want to provide value. So I actually wrote the email, 3 things great leaders do to instill irrational confidence in others. And what I like to do is kind of see the key points and then just talk off the top of my head. But I might share some of the stories that I shared here, but I might just kind of go off the cuff. So I always try to provide a little bit different content no matter where we go. And when you think about you spending time on this podcast, you reading my email, and you can subscribe down below, that you're spending extra time to better yourself is one of the things that I look to in leaders. And what I mean by that is if you're asking people to grow and you're asking people to develop, they have to see you doing the exact same thing. And what makes a great principal, I shared this quote specifically, people are more likely to take steps forward on a path if they see footprints from others on the ground. It's easy to say, you go try something new. You do this. I knew some people that were administrators who were great delegators, but would never do anything. And it's like, why would I do it if you're not going to? And something that I really pride myself on is I never ask anyone to do anything I am not willing to do myself. So this podcast was kind of born out of like, I'm asking people to try different things. I should do this. My blog, same thing. So being a leader really starts first. And I've shared this before, that if you want to lead by example, you got to learn by example. People need to see that you're learning. And so that's why I actually love doing these emails each week, because it really pushes my thinking. I spend a lot of time kind of thinking of these ideas. And I don't say these are the only 3 things. These are 3 things that came to mind, and hopefully they help you. So the first one is to capitalize on strengths before you develop in areas of growth. That we always want to develop people and help them grow, but sometimes the best place to start is what they're really good at, right? So if you, for example, if you see a kid who wants to be, this is very biased because I love basketball, wants to be a great basketball player, you would say, you know what, but you kind of suck at hockey, you should do that. No. You would develop them in basketball, and maybe they would actually get better at other sports because they develop confidence. I, as a kid, was a terrible hockey player, started playing basketball, and was actually very good at it when I was young. And when I say I was good at it, I was just taller than everybody else really early, so it just made you good. But that confidence in basketball actually made me better at hockey later. Now, I never played, on a team again, but when we played, I was like way better than what I remember, because I felt more comfortable. And it's like when you actually have a strength that can actually help develop. That was an extra that you didn't get in the email. And so when I talked about this specifically in the email, think about how often schools, and I've seen this a million times, where at the beginning of the year, people like show their data, and it's like, hey, you know what? Last year we sucked at this, and this was sucked, so we really got to focus on this. Does that get people really excited? It's like, yeah, we did suck. No, it actually kind of just upsets them, makes them feel bad. What is really powerful is the first thing you say is like, hey, look at what we're really good at. Why are we good here? What are we doing here that's making us excel? And if you actually build that confidence, that actually could accelerate to other areas as well. And I share this quote, the gift of those we serve are already there, and they are much easier to find if you choose to look. Are you actually, spending your time? And that's why I really bring this up. Do we actually push people to find the strengths in others and ourselves, or are we always looking for where they could actually grow? Someone I work with, basically every time I have connected with them, they always tell me like, you get better at this, you can better at this. And I kind of like, sometimes I'm like, did you like anything? I just suck. And it's hard. Like that's something that you struggle with. So this is not just, by the way, this is not just about administrators, leaders. It's like how we teach. Cause like when we teach, we lead the students that we have. So I actually shared these 5 questions asked students to start the school year. And some of them are like, what are you passionate about? What's one big question you have? What are strengths and how can we utilize them? And it's really try to get to understand their strengths and passions and use this as a research activity. And can we leverage some of those things? So for example, if a kid says to me, I want to be a YouTuber, but I'm teaching science, could I actually have their excitement and passion to make videos? Could I actually leverage that for them to be more interested in science, right? And maybe they don't like science, but that's actually something to think in. And as I share in the email, if people feel you're trying to fix them, they will fight you in every possible way. When people feel valued, they will gladly grow alongside you and their community. I think that's where this really starts, is that do people feel valued so they can develop confidence and competence? If you want that, start with their strengths. Point number 2, ensure people feel valued for their contributions, no matter their expertise or experience. Side note here, and I didn't write this in the email. I see this, like if you haven't taught for 10 years, I don't want to hear from you. Really going to say that? Like that's what you're going to say? And I'm not talking about speakers. I'm not talking about this. Imagine you being a first year teacher and hearing that on your staff. It's like, shut up for the next 10 years. Is that really the environment that we have? Now, I'm not saying that if you've taught 30 years, you have nothing to contribute, but I guarantee you that someone coming new to the school, that's a new staff member, might have ideas and might have a way of thinking that is different than what is there. Do we encourage them to contribute? Do we look for experience? Even saying things like, well, if you've never taught, you should never talk to educators. Really? Why is that? Like, because aren't we trying to serve the entire world? I'm not saying, I hate when, people outside education tell teachers how to teach. That is something that really, really bothers me. Even though I used to teach and I speak now, I don't tell anyone how to teach. I really emphasize, I'm just talking about learning, and you got to kind of figure out your own pathway because you're actually the expert. But no matter where we are, no matter what we do, we can learn from others, and there's things that we can pick up from, companies, and it can't be just people you agree with, right? It actually has to be, businesses thinking differently about things, that wherever we are. So for example, a parent says, hey, this works best for my child. Well, you've never taught, so what do you know? Well, you know your kid. So there's something there. So I think really creating that space where it doesn't matter what you do, that there's something you can contribute to this room will elevate people, will actually make them want to contribute and add to that space. Something that I used to do as a principal was we would always invite parents into our staff professional learning days. And we invited them not only for them to kind of understand, some of the things that we're doing, so they would be really excited and say like, I wish when I was a kid that we had that stuff. We wanted that, but we also wanted their feedback. And they were really excited about that experience, that they would want to share, and they, feel more comfortable contributing because we asked them to be a part of this day. So when I share this, again, ensure people feel valued for their contributions, no matter their expertise or experience. When I first actually became a teacher at Kelly's school, one of the first things she shared with me was she talked to me about technology, and she outright said, I actually don't know this. This is why we hired you. And she would ask me things like, what do you think we should budget for this year? I'm like, that's not my role. And she's like, well, it's not mine because I know that I run the budget, but we hired you to give us advice and feedback. And that was the first time someone asked me as a teacher to actually give suggestions for the budget, which actually made me have more accountability to my colleagues across the hall, right? And I can't complain because I'm the one making the decision. And so I have to have conversation with them, talk to them. So it actually pushed me to be better, because if I'm actually giving her advice, I better get feedback from, the people across the hall with my teaching partners, how important that actually was. And so thinking about this at the classroom level, when I actually first became a teacher, literally my first job, I got a job with a teaching high school technology. Now, this is weird because technology is not my thing. I trained to become a kindergarten teacher, and my first job was high school technology. Long story. Maybe I'll share in a podcast one day. But I really didn't know much to do. So I would go in there a little bit earlier and ahead of the kids. And basically I knew maybe like 3% more than the kids in the classroom. So I would try my best to kind of be ahead of them. But one of the things that I did was I'd say like, hey, we're doing this. Does anyone know how to do this? Does anyone know this? And kids would like line up. I know. And they'd be so excited. They never thought, oh, this guy's so stupid. They're like, wow, it's amazing that he's asking us. And I share this in the post. When we unleash the genius of the whole in classrooms, there is no limit what we can learn together. The kids didn't look down on me for asking. They actually appreciated me more because of it, because they actually went looking for things I didn't know because they wanted to like show what they could share, and they felt more excited about this. And that has shaped me, that even in the places had way more expertise and way more understanding of the content I was teaching later, I still really try to tap into the students. Often in Innovators Mindset, I actually didn't want to teach health one year, and I just had to because we had to have someone teach health, and I was actually AP at the time. And instead of me like kind of being bothered by it, I said, you know what? Hey students, this is the curriculum. Here's, I put it in different language because I made it student friendly. I want you to teach it. And I was so disappointed that I teach health, but it was like one of those classes you just had to teach because no one else is going to teach it. And that was the best class probably I ever taught, because the kids like went out of their way to just create incredible lessons for each other. And they actually had a very deep understanding of content because if they had to teach it to someone else, they had to know it way better. And that's where they were excited. They were so excited about this class. The class I did not want to teach the most actually became one of my favorite classes because the students were so empowered because they knew that what they contributed really, really mattered. And so the third and last point on basically how do we actually help instill that irrational confidence in others. And here it is. Challenge them to go a bit beyond what they are currently capable of doing and provide them support toward success. I shared this story in a podcast just recently about how basically immediately after a mental health leave, like basically having to take a stress leave, Kelly basically, when I came back about a week or two later, she said, hey, we want you to do the opening day keynote for the entire district. And I was like embarrassed to come back because I was just felt the stigma that I couldn't handle it. And then I was like, hey, not only can you handle it, we're going to actually up what you're expected to do here. And she did in a way because she knew it was something I was very comfortable doing. She knew I love speaking and I was doing it in other places. She's like, why wouldn't we have someone, if you're going other places, why wouldn't we take advantage of that and utilize you here? And it made me feel so valued. And, but it also, that was like, I did so much to make sure that keynote was so good because it was in front of my colleagues, but I wanted to make Kelly proud too. That really, really mattered to me. And that's like kind of putting students that's kind of putting people just in a situation where they have to like up themselves, do something that they're not necessarily comfortable doing this. And when I was writing this, I thought about something that I used to do as a teacher. I remember I taught grade 9 math. And when I was teaching math that year, there were some students who were really, they're almost bored because it was like so easy for them. So I remember saying to them, hey, I know that we're not here yet, but here's some stuff that eventually you're gonna be doing in like grade 11 and 12. And here it is. I'm not gonna teach you how to do it. I think you can solve it, figure it out. And they're like, why would we have to do this? And they would just like, this is impossible. You can't actually do this. I said, listen, I know you can do it. You'll be fine. Just try to figure it out. And they complained and struggled and had such a hard time with it. And they eventually figured it out. And they were so excited because you get way more excited when you eventually can do the things that you thought you never could. And my belief system as an educator, as a dad, is that you need to put the people you serve in a position where they realize they don't need you anymore, that they're good. They can figure out how to learn and figure out their pathway on their own. And that's I saw it in those students. Like, we can do this. We can do this. We can challenge ourselves. We can do this really hard stuff that we're not expected to do yet. And it is really easy to jump in and take over when you see your kids struggling, when you see your students struggling. And that might feel good for you now. It hurts them later. But to put our students in position where they have to struggle a little bit, where you just say, I'm not going to teach you, figure it out. It's one of the best things you can teach. Can you figure it out on your own? I do this all the time with adults. I'll say like, hey, I want you to do this, but if you need help, I'm not going to help you. Figure it out on your own. And people are kind of thrown off, but what do? They go online, they figure out. They go on ChatGPT, figure out. They go to their colleague, they figure it out. And then we talk about that because sometimes we like spoon feed so bad to our staff in professional learning that eventually they just want to be spoon fed. You condition them to that just tell me the answer, just tell me how to do it. Does that help long term? So again, the 3 points here that I wanted to share are these ones. 3 things great leaders do to instill irrational confidence in others. The first one is capitalize on strengths before you develop in areas of growth. Focus on what people are really good at, and they'll get better at the stuff they're not necessarily great at right now. The second one, ensure people feel valued for their contributions, no matter their expertise or experience. Do people walk into a space and know that what they contribute truly, truly matters? And then the third one, challenge them to go a bit beyond what they're currently capable of doing and provide them support towards success, right? It doesn't mean you just say, hey, figure out, I'll never do anything to help you, but you just want to maybe coax them a little bit, push them, give them some of that confidence that they can get to something that's above their current level. And once you feel that you've gone beyond your current level, you know you can do it again, and you just elevate. And that's how you develop that irrational confidence. And hopefully as educators, as administrators, as leaders, because leadership is moving people forward in a positive direction, we can instill that in the people that we serve. So thanks so much for being here. This is based on the book, What Makes a Great Principal. You can check that on the link below. If you like the quote, you can get the shirt. You can get a coffee mug if you like coffee mugs. And there is actually a promo code. It's GC email. You get 15% off if you want to check it out. But thanks so much for being here. Thanks for all you do. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.